Today's video is how to graph equations and inequalities. You're going to do this on graph paper, so make sure you have graph paper from me, and then your assignments on a handout, which I'll give to you later. Okay? So we've already learned how to graph equations. We've done that. Now we're going to do inequalities, which is it's the same thing, but we have to add 2 different steps to it. Okay? So, what's different about inequalities? I actually want you to write this down. What is different about inequalities? Pause if you need to. And there's 2 things that are different. So the first thing that's different is the type of line. Now when you graph equations, you don't draw this right now, but you just graph like a line, like you're used to, just a line, okay? But when you're doing inequalities, there's 2 different types of lines. So here's what I want you to write. If it's greater than or less than. So basically, if there is no line underneath it, you're gonna do a dashed line. And what I mean by a dashed line is it's going to look like this. Like a dashed line. Okay? Dashed line like that. Okay? However, if it's greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, like if there's a line underneath it, you just do a regular line. Like a regular line. Okay? So a way to remember this is that if there is a line there, it's going to be a regular line there. Okay, so if there is a line, it's a line. If there is no line, then it's going to be dashed. That's the first thing that's different. The second thing that's different is the type of shade. And what I mean by shades, you don't draw this, but look. This is an example of a graphed inequality. So if you look closely, we have a dashed line here on this particular one. But what you're going to have is one half of it's going to be shaded. And it doesn't really matter which half it is. So for example, that's one example. Here's another example. One half of it's shaded. So you have to figure out which half to shade. And here's how you do it. If it's greater than, so if it's this symbol or this symbol, so if it's greater than, you shade up. Or shade, you can put shade up, or if you want to, you could say shade above y-intercept. Okay, if you want to think of it that way. And then if it's less than or equal to, you can shade down. So it's kind of hard to see here. Shade down. Or if you want to think of it, below y-intercept. Okay? Those are the only 2 things. The type of line and the shade. Everything else is the same. So, go ahead and draw yourself. This is a big grid. But go ahead and draw yourself a grid. And what I want you to do is write down this problem. Y is greater than 1/3 x plus 2. Okay, 1/3 x plus 2. So we're going to do this the same way that we've done before. We put a point at the y-intercept, which is positive 2. So I'm going to go to positive 2 and put a point at the y-intercept. Right there. Okay, so positive 2. And then we do rise over run. It's positive 1/3, which means I go up 1/3. So up 1/3 and put a point. And do it again, up 1/3. We've done this before. You can do the opposite. Go down 1/3. Down 1/3. You can do this. Okay? So I have a line here. Now, you're going to use a straight edge. I actually don't have one with me right now. But you're going to make a line. But before you have to do, you need to think of what type of line am I going to do? Am I going to go all the way across, or am I going to do dashed? Well, you're going to look here. There's no line. So if you look at our notes, remember, if there's no line, it's dashed. So you're going to draw a dashed line. So what I mean by that is, instead of just going straight across, you're going to do something basically like this. So you draw a dash. How big do your dashes have to be? It doesn't matter as long as it's a dashed line. So some people do it really small, some people do it bigger, but I got to see the gaps in it. Okay? That's the first thing, is a dashed line. Okay? The second thing is you have to figure out, so here's my line right here. I need to figure out if I'm going to shade above that or below it. So this symbol is greater. So I go here and I say greater is we shade up or above the y-intercept. So I look here. Here's my y-intercept. I need to shade above it. So I need to shade above the line. So all you do is you just kind of draw, like the coloring, a shade like that. The whole line, okay? Don't just do it like in one quadrant, do the whole thing. Kind of hard to see, but you just kind of shade that part in like that. And then this part's blank. And that's how you do it. So the only two new things are the dashed line and the shade. And that's it. Okay? Let's do one more quickly and then I'll switch to another video so I can upload them at the same time. So draw a grid again, and we're going to do y is less than or equal to negative 2x plus 1. Pause if you need to. We're going to put a point at plus 1. Positive 1. And then my slope is negative 2x. And remember, if it's negative 2, you can put it over 1. So I'm going to go down 2 to the right 1. So, down 2 to the right 1, down 2 to the right 1. You can keep doing this. Your graph might not be as big as mine. But yeah. Okay, so I have my points. Now, I need to figure out my line and my shade. So my line, there's a line underneath here. So I'm going to draw a regular line. You should have an ID. I don't. Bad Miss Melina. So I'm just going to draw as straight as I can right now. A regular line. And it has to go all the way through the graph. There's a reason for that because the shade needs to be there. So I have my line, right? And then the last thing we do is figure out where to shade. So this is less than. And if you remember, less, if I can bring this back, less than is shading down or below the y-intercept. So, go here. This is my y-intercept. Below it is here. So this part of the line, below the y-intercept. So you're going to shade this whole section. So I'm going to start down here. Doesn't really matter. And just shade all of this in. Okay? I'd really recommend you doing pencil in this assignment because if you're wrong on this shade, you don't want it to be penned. The whole thing is going to be wrong. Okay? That's two examples. We have two more that are really important. Skip to the other video.